The Mighty Hawks have now won 6 of their last 8 and went from being a basket case to being spoken about as a final smoky. So, over the last 2 months of footy in the 2024 season, what has led to the resurgence of Sam Mitchell's Hawks? Let's go. And just before we deep dive into this, if you haven't subscribed, do so already. Click the like button, both of them. If you do both of them, it takes you like 2 seconds. And then you can enjoy the rest of this video. So this is actually going to be a 6-part conversation, and I'm doing this for 2 reasons. The first one being, I feel like all of these topics deserve the conversation, and I also think that this could be a way that I could look at doing more team-centric videos by really breaking it down into its individual parts. So if you like the way this is presented, comment below. Let me know. I don't know if you like it or not, unless you tell me. So go ahead and do that. But, yeah, let's fully get into it. What is being led towards the Hawks' turnaround in form? Well, let's start with... So while the Hawks statistically look good in a couple of key areas, overall for the season, they've looked shocking. And the reason for that is because it was infinitely bad throughout the first 5 weeks. So if you do want to throw that kind of in the bin, which I don't think you should do, it's quite irresponsible to go, this is Hawthorn at its worst. Now, 2 months is a large sample size, don't get me wrong, but you also can't go, well, if you take this away, it now looks like, I feel like there's a little bit of too much give and take there. You need to have that balance. But with the ball in hand, the Hawks are looking so sure of themselves. Whereas for the first 5 weeks, and anyone that's watched Hawthorn for a considerable period of time throughout 2024, and let's be honest, most of 2023, know that handballing to someone standing still was an absolute feature of Hawthorn's game. And if you can't figure out why that's a bad thing, I don't really know what to tell you, right? Because handballing to someone still invites pressure, even if they had 4.5 acres of space, which doesn't really happen on a football field all that much, right? So already that being fixed is a huge part of it. The ball is in momentum, not necessarily in motion. The ball is always in motion on a football field, but if you're handballing to advantage, kicking to advantage, even kicking to space, the ball is in momentum. And Hawthorn have been one of the better sides post round 5 at doing this in their favour for a myriad of reasons. The 2 big ones is to clear it out of the defensive half. Hawthorn are actually not a good team at scoring from their back half. They are also a good team, especially in the last 8 weeks, of course, of not conceding scores per inside 50. So, whilst, yes, the Hawks are not scoring out of their back half, they're not conceding scores out of their back half either, not nearly at a rate that they did in the first 5 weeks. With ball in hand, the Hawks look so much more sure of themselves, even if it is chaotic ball movement. It's not perfect. Ask any Hawthorn fan. The majority of the time, kicks inside 50 are not going well. But what they're not doing is turning the ball over as much in motion. So many teams over the weekend, their opponent over the weekend, GWS being one of the teams that is guilty of this here, that when they turn the ball over between the arcs, may not get back and help. Well, how can you fix that? Well, the first thing is go and help your defenders, but I'm going to talk more about that a little bit later on. The other way to fix it is don't turn it over between the arcs, and the Hawks have been doing that really, really well. Ball in hand, they look more sure, and they look more sure in not turning the ball over, not necessarily more sure of hitting targets, which, again, is a good thing. If you're going to hit a target, tick. Don't turn the ball over, it's still a tick. When contests are created, the Hawks have been able to do something really well without the footy, which I'm going to talk about in a second. Another thing that's really standing out is centre forward, the Hawks are lowering their eyes a little bit. Now, it's not going to come off every time. I understand that. But marks inside 50, Hawthorn are one of the better teams in the competition. And considering if you had said that, with Mitch Lewis not playing, which is becoming all too frequently, unfortunately for the Hawks, but Jimmy Warple's kicking inside 50 is getting a lot better. Connor McDonald is hitting targets inside. We know Dylan Moore is a beautiful kick, but even John Newcomb's kind of taking that tracer bullet-like nature out of his forward 50 entries. Are these plays perfect? No, they're not. But it's improved so much that guys like Cole Shadir, Jack Gunston, these guys who aren't necessarily stand at the top of the square, have a wrestle and take a contested mark, are still getting involved. Gunston's kicked 10 goals in the last 3 weeks, for crying out loud. And it's not as if the Hawks are a beautiful kicking team forward of centre. Their midfielders are not great kicks at all. But Jimmy Worpel, Connor Nash, John Newcombe, those three especially, can kick the ball well under pressure. Not as much. They don't need to, though, providing that they're not kicking it straight down the opposition's throat, which they're not doing. The Hawks look so much better with ball in hand, especially forward to centre, and that is leading to more space, more pockets of space, more shots. And look, sometimes the Hawks have been accurate, sometimes they haven't. They weren't on the weekend, still got the job done, which we cannot complain about. So with ball in hand, huge tick for the Hawks. So over the last 2 months, the Hawks have been one of the better pressure teams in the competition, and that's pressure, not necessarily tackling. Although tackles in the forward half, the Hawks are a top 6 team since round 7. So we will absolutely take that. Of course we will. But the Hawks' ability to force the opposition in their back half, Hawthorn's front half, to turn the ball over or kick to a contest is really, really good. The Hawks are not conceding goals coast to coast anywhere near the rate that they were in the opening month and a half of the season. So what that means is that these young kids that are coming through at the Hawks, which again, future part down the road, are able to swarm, create contest, and as soon as the ball is turned over, are able to get and go. And as soon as they go, good luck catching them. GWS got caught out. Adelaide's half-backs, half-forwards got caught out. Brisbane's half-backs, half-forwards got caught out. And across that 3-week period, the Hawks now with 3 wins in a row in that post-Port Adelaide disaster last quarter. But hey, the last quarters are fixed now, so you're guilty. But without the ball in hand, Hawthorn don't look like they're going to get scored against a whole lot. Now, this is helping the backline considerably. Again, with James Blank doing his ACL, Hawthorn were left with, going into this season, Sam Frost as their number 1 lockdown defender. And before this season started, that was met with, oh no's, echoing from Hawthorn fans. It's not that Frosty is a bad guy or even a bad player, but the one weakness you don't want to have as a fullback is your inability to stop the opposition from scoring. Unfortunately, Frosty had brought that easy to score against nature. Now, I'm of the opinion that a big part of that was a lack of midfield pressure. We've already spoken about that. Frosty's been awesome this year, and if you're thinking to yourself, but Hawthorn's backline are still conceding big scores. Hawthorn have the second worst expected scoring differential in the competition. Sometimes the opposition are just going to be accurate, and you have to live with that. Hawthorn are living with that. The amount of shots that he is conceding, not necessarily scores, is what's making him an underrated part of this Hawthorn back 6, as a part of the Hawthorn back 6 as well. Opposition teams are kicking goals from stoppage, which is not great inside their forward 50, and the Giants did that. Brisbane did it a few times. Zach Bailey kicked both of his goals, I think, out of stoppages from memory. I was at that game, and awesome atmosphere that was too. But without the footy as well, the Hawks' ability to hunt you down and take away your uncontested space has been awesome. Nearly any team in the comp will happily give up uncontested marks in their back half, even if the switch works. But Hawthorn's ability to get back in droves because of the high half forwards has been awesome. Without the ball, they're a hell of a lot better. With the ball, they're a hell of a lot better. So let's start to narrow down a little bit. What are some other key factors that are going into Hawthorn's resurgence? Well, it has to start with this man. It's not just his stats that he's bringing to the table, and I know AFL.com.au have done the article about this, or someone did the article about Will Day's resurgence. Josh Gablachek, I think it was. Good man, Josh, too, by the way. But anyway, I digress. It's not necessarily what Will's been able to do, even though he's been awesome. He was, without a doubt, and sorry if you disagree, you're wrong, Will Day was the best player on the ground yesterday. Saturday, what friggin' day am I recording on? Monday. Who knows? He was the best player on the ground against the Giants. Since he's come back, Hawthorn's midfield has gotten better, both because of him and with him as well. He was Hawthorn's best against Port Adelaide, maybe, but that goal that he kicked was absolutely unbelievable, and the fact that he can take so much limelight means that Newcombe, Worpel, and Nash, but especially Jimmy Worpel, get better. I know a lot of it has been Day's helped Jai get better. I promise you, Will Day there makes James Worpel an infinitely more effective midfielder. His ability to be able to have a pure one-on-one, get goal side of his centre bounce opponent and hit up targets inside 50 is awesome. He's done it all the last 3 weeks, and his ability to lower his eyes is what makes him so dangerous. When James Worpel's getting the ball and just hacking it forward for metres gained, a la Tom Mitchell, That's not him at his best. It's still necessary. Every midfielder in the comp basically does it anyway. And whilst, yes, Jimmy Worpel is not a top 5 midfielder in the competition, for what Hawthorn's game plan is, he is terrific as a number 3 midfield option. There are a lot worse you could do in this competition, and when he is able to get into space, he looks an infinitely better player. His ability to stop, prop, and make the right decision makes him better, and all of that is because Will Day is there. He's able to be that star midfielder. He is also able to let his midfielders, whereas Jai and James went from a number 1 and a number 2 option, now become a number 2, number 3. If you think of that midfield rotation as an NBA lineup, if you took the number 1 option out of any NBA team, I don't care which one it is, and everyone else has to step up, sometimes that'll work. I think of the Memphis Grizzlies without Ja Morant 2 seasons ago. Not this season, the season beforehand. Whereas if you took Jokic off the Nuggets, they would not be anywhere near the conference finals. That makes sense. When you take the best option off a bad team, Cade Cunningham off the Pistons, for example, I don't know why I'm bringing so much NBA into this conversation, but it's not as if they're going to become better. You're going to get vital experience and game time for these players, but it's not as if they're going to suddenly become the number 1 best option. That's not how it works. Usually, Jalen Brunson could be the exception to this rule. But it's also not how it works in the AFL either, and we're going to try and park the NBA metaphors as best we can here, is that Will on the ground gives that burst and that defensive nature. That is the underrated part of his game. His ability to stand goal side and not let opposition midfielders walk through him to get uncontested inside 50s is so important, as evidenced by his double-digit tackles against the Giants. His ability to go, "You are not getting past me," and force stoppages is awesome. And Hawthorn are one of the teams that benefit the most from the holding the ball rule, whatever you think of it so far, and we've definitely had the overcorrection, see the Elliott Yeo decision for clarity, there, right? Whereas once the rule gets righted, which might take another week or 2, but once it's settled and we've got a little bit more consistency, and I've still got faith in that happening, teams that are able to get and go quickly are going to benefit. Hawthorn is one of them. But overall, I don't really know if I've talked about Will Day enough in a part called Will Day. He is a star. And I love James Sicily. I love Mitch Lewis. Will Day is Hawthorn's best player, and if this last 2 months hasn't proved it, you're never going to change your mind. James Sicily's a star. Do not get me wrong. And an All-Australian caliber player. Will Day's a superstar in the making and is Hawthorn's best player and could be a multiple All-Australian by the time his career is up. So, with the ball, without the ball, Will Day is back. What's next? So when it comes to underrated Hawks in 2024, there were a few options I could have gone with. Now, Dylan Moore kind of robbed me of being able to fanboy over him because I am the leader of the Dylan Moore fan club and I will fight anyone who disagrees on that. Liam from Talking Hawks included. Bring it on, great man. But 27-5, it kind of eliminates that. So, can't do that. I was really keen on talking about Jarman Impey in this spot because his ability to mark overhead for his size and stop the opposition from not only scoring, but his ability to rebound. I thought about Josh Weddle, but I think, Sunday Footy Show covered that quite a little bit. Lloyd Meeks' resurgence, but he hasn't been there for the last fortnight. Who do I get to froth about? Well, this is all acting. Golden Globe for dazzling. There is only one underrated man at the Hawks at the moment, Jack Scrimshaw. Now, if you understand this joke, I love you, but that's not Jack Scrimshaw, that's Grant Birchall, this is Jack Scrimshaw. Okay, we're on the same page. Fantastic. And if you're wondering why I did that, you'll understand. I promise you, it will not take that much to figure it out. Anywho, let's talk about Jack, who at this moment in time, I should say, is playing way above his height and way above his pay grade. And what I mean by that is that this guy is not a third tall defender. That's not his role. He's a rebounder. He is standing on some of the game's best forwards and negating them. If you told me going into round 1 last year that Jack Scrimshaw would have to play on Jake Riccardi at times, I would be like, oh, shit. And now, cool. Go for it, mate. He's been so good. His spoiling's been fantastic. His actual stats on paper look worse, but his ability to win one-on-ones is awesome. One of the things, or one of the gripes that I had about Jack early on in his career at the Hawks is that I felt that he went to ground a little bit too easily. Doesn't do that now. And he's still a beautiful kick. Now, part of that is he's knackered because he's got to defend so much. So maybe he's not hitting as many on the 45 as he would as a pure rebounder. But guess what? Carl Amon is. Jarman Impey is. Therefore, Jack can play his role. His ability to stand back shoulder and not get beaten consistently is a massive reason as to why, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, Hawthorn are not missing James Blank as much as everyone thought they would when he went down. And what was really annoying is that when Blank went down, AFL media people, hello Damien Barrett if you're listening, that goes, it's not like Hawthorn have lost Stephen Silvani, it's not as if they've lost Dustin Fletcher or Matty Scarlett. No, but remember what I said before, if you take the number one guy out of a lineup, he is Hawthorn's best lockdown defender. What the hell are you going to do? And if I had told you that the answer was, we need to play Sam Frost more, and we need to play Jack Scrimshaw back shoulder on forwards that are better than him, the answer was, oh. And 5 weeks in, the answer was, oh no. And then 13 weeks in, it's, oh baby. There is a calmness, a surety to the way that he can use his agility, his pace, his closing down speed, and his ability to pick the ball up off his toes. And most of all, he makes good decisions. Hawthorn's backline with ball in hand just make the right decision. A consistent level. Now, some of it is still a little bit sporadic, but again, we're not talking about a perfect football team here. For crying out loud, their percentage isn't 90 in a league where 12 to 13 teams have a percentage over 100. So I understand all that, but still, part of the resurgence has been the fact that we've been able to cover the loss of Jimmy Blank, and he, along with Sam Frost, are the big reasons why. A tip of the metaphorical cap to you, Jack. And look, as long as we're talking about the CEO of fan clubs, my man Smithy, first subscriber to Daz Talks Footy, led the charge of Jack Scrimshaw being a star. So he'd be sitting pretty damn well right about now. So 4 parts down, 2 to go. Let's talk about these youngsters. So let's partly talk about the elephant in the room, the drafting elephant in the room, if you will, and that is Hawthorn should just never have a pick 6 again. Now, fun fact for you, pick 6 statistically is the worst pick in the top 20 you can have in terms of average games played. There are only 2 premiership players, Jack McRae and Gary Rowan, that have won a flag after being drafted from pick 6. There are no 250 gamers that were drafted at pick 6. Jack McRae's played the most games for a pick 6. It's extraordinary. The first 12 pick 6s didn't play 150 games. Like, it's extraordinary how it's been. And Hawthorn have been responsible for 3 of those. 2 of them definitely didn't work out, and 1 of them doesn't look like it might. But Bo Dowler and Mitch Thorpe didn't work out in times where Hawthorn were drafting their generation next for the 3-peat. And then in 2020, Hawthorn drafted Denver Granger Barra. So, look, I don't think if I was listing my top 5 most polite and best blokes I've met in footy, Denver makes that list and is not number 5. That in mind, in 2020, we're looking at guys like Logan McDonald, who are starring for Sydney. Now, I know that Zach Reed and these guys, Nick Cox, are going okay, not setting the world on fire. Jamara's doing really well out of the tools in that draft. But considering Jimmy Blank went down, and I know he's had turf toe, and he's been okay since coming back through the VFL, but at this point in time, we can't say it's a massive success. Josh Ward is still playing VFL footy at this point in time. I really like Cam McKenzie. Hasn't proven himself to be an A-grader yet. And Nick Watson, again, playing VFL, although I do not understand the Nick Watson hate at all. I can't call him the wizard. Yes, you can. There is personality in sport. Embrace personality, you boring fucks. Right? Just do it. Embrace it. It's fine. It's fun. He is going to be a star. I promise you he will be. So the Hawks drafting their first picks really haven't worked out all that well, or maybe to expectation, recently. Yet, our crew of under 23s are going beautifully, or even under 25s if you want to go down that path. Will Day was a first pick, and that's awesome. We love that. Absolutely. But considering we got James Sicily in the 50s, Warple in the 40s, Newcomb in the mid-season draft, as we know, Connor McDonald was a pick in the 20s, Dylan Moore was a pick in the 50s, 57, I think he was. Hawthorn got Ginnivan, according to the draft value index, at about pick 37, traded to Collingwood when you marry up where it stands at the moment, because future picks are involved in this draft. But it's about that. That is a freaking steal at this point in time. The fact we got Amon instead of St Kilda, who could really bloody use him right about now, but very grateful that we got him there. Josh Weddle we traded up for, which was awesome. Oh, but he told Victorian clubs he wouldn't go. Why do you care about that? Yet no one really gives Archie Perkins that kind of shit anyway. Is it because one of them is going better than the other? Who knows? But that's worked out really well so far for the Hawks. Cole Shadir's come from nowhere as a father-son prospect, of course, and I am missing blokes at this point in time. Seamus Mitchell's taken a while to come on as a lockdown small defender, but he wasn't exactly a high pick. 28, I think he was. Errol Goulden went at 32, but I giggle when people say that. He was a Swans Academy kid, guys. They were matching him anyway, so don't stress about that at all. Blake Hardwick was a late pick, who's been 2 times best and fairest runner-up, and I know he's not young, but the way that Hawthorn have been able to mesh this list together without hitting home runs with their top picks is extraordinary. Now, you can look at that 2 ways. You can go points for development, or you can get a little bit shitty at the fact that top picks haven't worked. Pick your poison. Hawthorn are winning at the moment. I'm kind of on the optimism path at this point in time. And if you tell me that the Hawks could legitimately add Bailey Smith to this midfield mix, sign me up. Sign me the fuck up for Bailey Smith. Hey, Dazzy's done his ACL. Plenty of players have come back from an ACL. Stop it, right? Just the pace that he would bring. Day, Smith, Newcomb, Warple. Yes to all of it. But the youngsters at Hawthorn are going beautifully. We haven't had the top picks that West Coast and North Melbourne especially have had during this time. And sure, having one of them really hit would be really nice. Could the Hawks do it this year if they try to trade a future first for Bailey Smith? Who knows? But what do the Hawks need? Well, it doesn't really look like a whole lot at the moment. Jasper Schaefer, Box Hill looks pretty damn good, so maybe a tall forward isn't the go. The midfield depth we've already spoken about. They've got Ethan Phillips, so do they go after a Harry O'Farrell in this draft? Do they just get best talent available? Maybe a Christian Moraes, for example? Who the hell knows? But the young crop at the Hawks are so exciting, but it's also being led by one man, the coach. Let's talk about Sam Mitchell. So, quick story time for you. At the Hawthorn-Melbourne game, when Hawthorn got absolutely spanked because all we did was kick backwards for the first quarter and a half and the game was over, I was actually in the Hawthorn rooms and was actually able to ask Sam Mitchell a couple of questions in the press. That was an awesome opportunity to do so. But something that no one would have seen was that when Sam Mitchell, spotted Jordan Lewis, who was there with his kids, and I was having a chat with Louis. Awesome dude. Love JL in a massive way as a Hawthorn fan, but as a just a pure footy nuffy as well. Love the way Jordan Lewis went about it. Louis asked Sam Mitchell, all good. And Sam Mitchell went, yeah, do you want to come do my presser for me? Which at the time I was kind of like, really? Like, I don't know why. Maybe it's because I was about to walk into that room. I'm not sure. But I was kind of like, I don't really know if that's the approach that we want. But now, 8 weeks later, I get it. I get the fact that it was the fact that the plan fell over and the plan wasn't right. Now, look, he was having banter with a premiership teammate. He wasn't really serious, I don't think, about not wanting to be in that room. But when you are chips in and it doesn't work, that sucks. And with the public scrutiny, and look, it's not as if he was scrutinised in that room, of course, but there have been twice now where Sam Mitchell's tried to be the smartest guy in the room and it hasn't worked. The Melbourne game, the Port Adelaide game. If he tries to be the smartest person in the room, it doesn't work. When he is a smart coach, it works perfectly. Look at what Josh Weddle did in the ruck. Perfect. Amazing. works beautifully. The way the game plan has evolved to get, like we say, those high half forwards up and back, Moore, McDonald, Ginnivan as the three major ones, has worked beautifully. The way he's been able to tinker with Blake Hardwick, which has worked at a much higher percentage rate than I think a lot of people want to give him credit for. Trying to be smarter than everyone else does not work for Sam Mitchell. Being a hella smart coach is working beautifully, and that's a balancing act that he's gotten wrong a couple of times. And as we sit here now, you kind of go, so, right? I did a rant about the last quarter and how badly that worked out, and it's not as if I was telling Mitch, not that I think he would listen to this anyway, but it's not as if I was saying anything that I didn't think he already knew, right? I think he figured out pretty damn quickly that the plan didn't work, right? Whereas his ability to go, right, that didn't work, what do we do next? And it's extraordinary to me how it didn't seem controversial at the time to go, this could derail a Hawks season, to just go, the confidence is down. But from an outsider's perspective, the way he's been able to look at it and go, well, fuck it, that didn't work, what do we do next? And the Hawks have gone, win 3 in a row with completely different plans, with completely different game styles. The fact that they are kicking scores now is just... yes, I think they've kicked 100, 107, and 85 from 25 scoring shots in those 3 weeks. Yay, scoring footy is good footy. The Hawks are one of these teams that want to go, if we're gonna lose, let's lose 100 to 80, not 80 to 60. Hello, Ross Lyon, if you're listening, right? Sorry to the St Kilda fans. But Mitchell's ability to be able to be like, that didn't work. What will work? This. And then the ability to go, this is working. Let's get better at it. It's very clear that Hawthorn are happy to be flawed as long as they are great at something. And that, as a fan, makes you go, yeah! Because the worst thing you can be as a football team is bad at some things and good at some things. Do you know where that gets you? Fucking 9th on the ladder, which is not what you want. The Hawks could still finish 9th. Let me finish my point. Is the Hawks want to be great at swarming, at pressure, at speed on the ball, at the ball in momentum. And we can accept that if we turn the ball over in the middle of the ground, we are going to be exposed. Flawed, greatness, and then just merge in. It is a lot easier to be like, we're great at this, but we're shit at this. And let's rein this in and get better and better and better. Rather than being, we're good at some things, we're bad at some things. You know, let's experiment, let's try to get better at this. Oh, now we're getting exposed, so we'll come back here and then we get nowhere. And was that beautiful miming that deserves another Oscar award? I think I've won 3 for this video so far. But the Hawks want to be great at some things and can accept that they'll be bad at some things. And then as they fix the bad, they'll get better at the great. And that is accelerating a rebuild that is so exciting to watch. So where do the Hawks go from here? Well, step 1, let's spoil Dusty's 300th. And I've got some personal stakes in us beating Richmond, for crying out loud. But it would be really nice if we could do that. Sorry, Richmond fans, but I'm a Hawthorn fan. So, you know, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to live with that in a little bit. But it's all about continued improvement. Are Hawthorn going to play finals? In my opinion, no. We would have to win 8 of the last 10. That would be an extraordinary ask. Percentage is also not going to help us. 13 wins will not get us in. 14 will, because our percentage, even if we win 8 of the last 10, is probably going to be at around that 98 to 105 mark. That's not going to be enough at 13 wins. If you've got teams that are hanging around that spot, you think of the Bulldogs especially, whose percentage is about 112 at this point in time or something stupid, you're going to need that extra win. So that's going to be really difficult. But the Hawks just need to finish as best they can. Their first draft pick in terms of position means stuff all, because the Hawks don't want to use it anyway. But in terms of what they've been able to do with the ball, without the ball, Will Day being back, Jack Scrimshaw down back, as well as a back 6 that is going absolutely beautifully, getting experience into these youngsters. Shout out to Chankwath Giath, who is playing his 50th game on the weekend and also scared the shit out of me at a player sponsor night and hugged me that hard I nearly fell up the MCG stairs. But, you know, cool times ahead. So congratulations to you, CJ, and of course Sam Mitchell, fully unlocking his potential with a game plan that is working, has led the Hawks to win 6 of their last 8. A really long presentation here. Do you like this format? Comment below. Let me know. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe to join the Daz Talks Footy family. I hope you, amazing people, had an amazing weekend, because you fucking deserve it. Look after yourselves. Look after each other. And I will see you very shortly for the next video.